We may already be 2 months into 2025, but that is not going to stop me from reading the most popular books of 2024. Something about me is that I love reading popular books to see if they're worth the hype or not. So when I saw that Goodreads posted the most read books of 2024, I knew I would have to go through and read some of them. So that's what we're going to do today. Goodreads posted the top 144 most read books, which I trust Goodreads because I feel like a lot of people use Goodreads. Starting with fiction, we have the #1 read book was Yellowface, and the only book I read in these top books was Tom Lake by Ann Patchett, Normal People, and A Little Life. And then we have historical fiction, which I've actually read all top 3 of these books. So ranked #1 is Lessons in Chemistry, which I just read that book last month. It was so good. It was a 5-star for me. Then I read the second most popular book, which was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which I also read this book last month, but I gave this one a 3-star, I think. I just didn't love it. And then ranked #3 is Daisy Jones and the Six, which I loved this book. I'm pretty sure I rated it a 5-star. And then I also read The Nightingale last year and The Great Alone. I liked both of them, but The Nightingale was a 5-star read for me. And Where the Crawdads Sing. I read this book in high school, loved it so much. And then we have mysteries and thrillers, which I haven't read The Housemaid, but I have read None of This Is True, which is ranked #2. And I read The Silent Patient, which is ranked #3. And then I also have read The Only One Left, which is ranked #6. And then for fantasy, haven't read any of these, except I did read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which is ranked #2. I read that last month. Also rated that a 3-star. I found it a little bit disappointing, but that's okay. And then I actually listened to The Unmaking of June Farrow last year, and I was also a little bit disappointed in that one. And then getting to the romantasy category, I feel like I've read a good amount of these. So ranked first is Fourth Wing, and then second is Iron Flame. I read both of those books in 2024, I believe. Or maybe I read Fourth Wing in 2023 and then Iron Flame in 2024. And then A Court of Silver Flames is ranked 4th, which I also have read that one. I've read none of the science fiction books, which I am not surprised by. I've also read none of the horror books, which I am not surprised by. Oh wait, I read one of them. I read Home Before Dark. I actually really liked this one. Maybe I can branch out into horror eventually. And then romance. I actually am surprised I haven't read more of these. So I haven't read the top book, which is Icebreaker, but I have read Happy Place, which is the 2nd ranked book. And I've read Love Theoretically, which was ranked 6th. And I've read It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover and The 7-Year Slip, which the 7-Year Slip should be higher on this list. It is such a good book. And then I've also read Book Lovers. And then young adult, I have read so many of the young adult top books. Crazy actually, but I've read all of the top 5 books, which is Divine Rivals, Ruthless Vows, Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, and The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I did not read Check and Mate. I have read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which is ranked 7th, Powerless, which is ranked 8th, and Heartstopper. And then memoirs, I've read the top 2, which is actually exciting. These are really good memoirs. And then also read Tom Felton's memoir. I've read none of the history and biography, and I've read the top 2 general nonfiction, which is exciting. And I was picking out the books I wanted to read for this video. I decided to do as many of the #1 books that I possibly could because, as you saw, I've read some of the #1 books. I decided we're going to start with the mystery and thriller category because I picked up The Housemaid last night and I have been really excited to read this book. I only got 20 pages into it, so I haven't gotten very far yet, but I'm honestly liking it a lot so far. I really like how it starts. You get like 2 pages into the future and it's very ominous. You don't really get a lot of details about what's going on because then you're immediately transported to like the present day. I don't know how much time is going on between those two. Oh, 3 months earlier. Okay, that's not a lot of time actually, but I do really like when books start off that way. And I've read other books by Freida McFadden before and I'm pretty sure I've enjoyed every single one of them except one. So I do have very high hopes for this. Plus it's a trilogy, I believe. So if I like this book, I could read the other books as well. I'm now on page 82 of this book, which is chapter 15, and I am thoroughly enjoying this book right now. Like I'm actually shocked by how much I'm enjoying this book, which I don't know why I'm surprised because I feel like popular books are popular for a reason. That's not to say I haven't read a popular book that I don't like, but I feel like a lot of the time I do end up liking them at least a little bit. Like sometimes I'm not obsessed with them, but I normally don't hate them, if that makes sense. But our main characters are acting all strange. There's like definitely some underlying thing going on that like is not talked about, you know what I mean? Like something's wrong here, which I feel like happens a lot in a thriller. Like in the beginning, you know there's something wrong, but like you don't know what is wrong yet. So we're kind of just like waiting for that to drop because a lot of their behavior just like doesn't make sense. And I'm talking specifically about like one character, but there's a little bit coming up in the other character as well that just like does not make sense. Like their actions don't make sense. I don't really have any theories right now, which I guess is a good thing because that means I can't predict anything correctly, so I'll take it. But I am gonna go shower and get in my pajamas and probably read a good amount tonight. Well, hopefully I'll read a good amount tonight. I am a sleepy girl and I just want to be in my comfy PJs. I pretty much read The Housemaid all last night and I am still liking it so much. I'm now on page 184 and I'm actually really hoping that I can finish this today. But you know how I was just saying in the last clip that like it feels very ominous because we don't really know that much about the characters' backstories, which you don't really need to know any backstory in a thriller. I feel like I kind of like when we don't know the backstory, honestly, but we did find out a little bit of the backstory, which is good because things are kind of like making sense now. Well, not making sense fully. There's still something going on that we don't know about. We did just find out something in the last chapter that I read that was shocking, but also like not shocking. It's like I can see that happening, but it's still shocking. Things are in fact already hitting the fan and I'm confused because we have so much of the book left. You can't even see that. Can you see my bookmark? We have like a fourth of the book left. So I'm just confused on like where things are gonna go because we're learning so much of the backstory right now, which is very interesting. Like things are creepy, you know? It's like, what is going on? But then at the same time, I'm like, whoa, if we're learning this now, I have no idea what we're gonna learn later in the book. I only have like 10 minutes till I have to leave, but I'm gonna read until then. I'm going to Jack's house and then we're gonna go thrifting and then I think we might or find a park or something like that because it's supposed to be really beautiful outside today. Like the weather is just supposed to be really nice and I'm hoping we'll read while we do that because I feel like that would be really fun. Made it to part 3 in this book, which means I'm on page 268 and I'm actually so excited to get to this part 3 because the ending of part 1 ended on a cliffhanger and I think we're finally going back to the ending of part 1, which is good because the whole time I was reading part 2 I was so focused on what is going on with the ending of part 1, so I'm very excited to go back to that. I'm still very much enjoying the book, but honestly at the end of part 2 I was like, okay, I just want to go back to this other part at this point because I was just like so confused about what was going to happen. Not confused, I was just so like, I need to know what's gonna happen, you know what I mean? So I'm very excited that we're now back to that part. I'm still really enjoying this book, but I'm a little iffy on if I think it's gonna be a 5-star, but it's definitely up there for sure. It was so good that yesterday I was telling my boyfriend that I think he should read this book, and also I'm like thinking like when the show, or maybe it's gonna become a movie, I'm not sure. It's becoming either a show or a movie, but when that comes out I'm like maybe I can make my whole family watch it with me. Like I just am really enjoying this so far. I look a bit like a mess because I just worked out, but I'm about to go on a walk on my treadmill and read my next book. I finished The Housemaid. It was actually really good. For the longest time I was so confused on how this becomes a trilogy, but then at the end it makes sense. So I'm very excited to read the rest of this series. Hopefully I will get to it at some point this year because I want to read more of them before the movie comes out at the end of the year. And then I did actually already start my next book, which is Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This was the most read romance of 2024 and I can't lie to you guys, I am nervous about this book and I probably would not have picked up this book if it weren't for this video, just because I have heard so many people talk about the amount of spice in this book. Like they make it out to be a very spicy book, so we're gonna see how spicy it actually is, but because of that reason I've always been a little bit hesitant to pick up this book, but so many people like it, so surely it can't be that bad. I am actually already on page 42, so we're still kind of just setting the scene between our characters and setting up the romance and things like that, giving them backstory. But basically this is a romance between a hockey player and a figure skater. They're both in university and something kind of happens to their ice rink which makes them have to share one ice rink, and that's basically the point we're at right now because like I said, none of this has happened already. But I'm gonna go walk on my treadmill and read while I walk. I've been doing that recently. Either I will like actually physically read a book while walking or I will just like listen to the audiobook. I was going to listen to the audiobook because I got it on Libby, but I think I'm actually just gonna read it while I walk and then I'll probably will listen to the audiobook some tomorrow while I work. But for now I want to physically read the book. It's actually much later in the day, but I want to give a quick update before I go to bed because I'm not sure how long I'll actually read in bed before I fall asleep. So just in case I'm up for a while and I end up reading a crazy amount of pages, which I don't think that will happen, but just in case. I did make it to chapter 13, which is page 110, and I'm actually really enjoying it so far. I know I said in the last clip that I was a little bit worried about it just because of things that I've heard, which I will say those things are true. Their relationship does seem very physical right now, but it's not in a bad way, and because I feel like I can see them becoming like more than just physical, especially when we're in the MMC's point of view. I feel like he is so smitten with her, and so I love that we are getting his point of view. Like this book would be so drastically different if we didn't get his point of view. I also think his point of view might be my favorite, but also he does feel like a guy written by a girl, if that makes sense. But then also at the same time, low-key our main girl character seems like a guy wrote her, so I don't know. Maybe that's just a me thing. I feel like it probably is, but I don't know. I'm still very much enjoying it so far. I'm like, okay, yeah, I get the hype behind this book. So I'm gonna keep reading. Hopefully things continue to be good from here. Also, another thing, I like that our main female character, her name is Anastasia, but I don't know if you say Anastasia or Anastasia. I don't know which one it is, but I'm gonna listen to the audiobook tomorrow when I work, so I will figure it out tomorrow. But I like that she wants to go into the Olympics because I love the Olympics so much, and also the Summer Olympics were like just here, so like the Olympics are fresh in my mind right now, so I love that little like side, I want to say side quest, because we're not focusing on the Olympics for her at this moment, but I love that for her. It is now Monday, which means I'm working today, which also means I'm about to switch to the audiobook, but I wanted to give you an update before I do that. I made it all the way to chapter 18 last night, which is page 157, and I'm actually surprised because I thought that my head would hit the pillow and I would just pass out, but I read way more than I thought I would last night. I will say a couple of the chapters are a little bit you know, they're a little bit, but I'm glad that that's not like the whole book, because that was my concern, that it would be the entire book would be like that, or that I wouldn't see like the connection between them. And I do see the connection between them, and I also really enjoy that our main character has made friends with like every hockey player, not all of them obviously, but like all of his friends she has made friends with, and his friends are all so nice to her, and like just the relationship she has with his friends. I'm thinking specifically of like one, but then also like two. She's really close with two of them, but I like that she didn't paint the hockey players as like stereotypical like jock hockey players. They're actually really nice. I am still enjoying it. I'm not obsessed with it. I definitely don't think it's gonna be a 5-star, but that is not stopping me from enjoying this book. So I'm gonna go work and switch to the audio. I will probably talk to you at lunch. Why am I actually kicking my feet and laughing at this book right now? Well, not like right this second, obviously, but when I was listening to the audiobook while working, I was literally laughing. Also, wanted to say I love the therapy representation in this book. She talks a lot about going to therapy, not only in her inner monologue, but also when she's talking to her friends and other characters, and I love that. I'm like, yes, girlfriend, let's normalize therapy. Also, why am I eating up the figure skating talking right now? Like, it's making me want to read the favorites because that's also about figure skaters. I think part of it is also that it reminds me of the Olympics, and I already said, you guys know, I love the Olympics, but also in the favorites, I think that they are actually like in the Olympics. Obviously this book, they're in college, so they're not in the Olympics. Well, I guess you could be in the Olympics in college actually, but they're not at this point. Who knows what's gonna happen? But for the longest time, wait, I actually forgot to tell you where I am in this book. I'm already 65% of the way through this book because I've been listening to it, and for the longest time it was all rainbows and butterflies and gushy and cute. Things are taking a turn though, for sure, and I'm very excited to see where things go. There's a character in this book that I'm like very suspicious about. I'm like, I don't understand what your thought process is here. Like, why do you behave the way you do? I don't know. I'm sure we're gonna find out because it's been like hinted out for a really long time. I'm gonna go back to listening to it because I actually literally just like inhaled my food so that I would have some time before logging back on after my lunch break to work on my journal, because I just did my little March spread. Okay, obsessed. So I want to create a couple more spreads. I think I'll probably maybe have time for one more spread. So I am gonna go back to listening to it just because I need to work today and I don't want to stop reading this book. So I will see ya in like 4 hours. Got like a whole page of notes on this book, so let's chat. I have not finished this book yet, but I in fact only have 2 chapters left, but I am going to get in bed and finish this book and then maybe start another book. We'll see how long I last. At this point I am still liking this book, but I realized I feel like their relationship, or maybe not their relationship, my camera just catfished me. It said it was half charged and then it literally died. So anyways, I think I was in the middle of saying that they feel a little bit fake to me, like them as characters characters for some reason, and I feel like it is because of the way they interact to each other. Or no, that's not it, but I did notice the way that she speaks is like, it shows that she's gone to therapy, you know what I mean? Anyways, I feel like because to me in my head, the way that they behave is like almost like they're not college students. Like in my head, they're older than, they're probably like not even 20, maybe they are 20 actually. Wait, no, if he's like a senior, she's probably 20 and he's probably 21. And I kind of wish they were older. They're drinking a lot, they're partying a lot, so then that kind of like does make them feel like college students. I don't know. That whole part is like weird to me because I'm like, you don't feel that young to me, but like you definitely are. Anyway, also, I think I mentioned this earlier, but I can't remember. The found family in this book is so amazing. It is so good. I don't know if I've ever read a romance where they have this good of a found family. Maybe the Magnolia Park series. Yeah, actually I would say in the Magnolia Park series. But anyways, I really like the found family in this book because it 100% makes me want to pick up the rest of the books in this little series. I don't know if the series follows like all of his hockey player friends. That's what I assume. I'm not sure, but I'll find out because I'm definitely gonna read the rest of the series. But if you've seen any of my other videos, you know that characters like this main girl character, where they are obsessed with their to-do lists and their planner dictates their lives, those kind of characters, I do not like them. I feel like they are very like in a box kind of character. Like they're just overdone to me, and those characters remind me of myself, and I don't like that about me, so I don't want to read it. You know what I mean? I just find myself also always annoyed with those characters because they feel a lot like characters. Like for me, those kind of characters are like when books talk about books inside of books, when it's just added because they know the reader is going to resonate with that. You know what I mean? I feel like that's hard to describe, but it's like when a main character says, oh, I love to read, whatever, and it's like never talked about it again because they know the reader just likes to have that moment to be like, oh, like you're just like me. I don't know if I am describing that good at all. Also, my cat has decided now is the time for a little snack, and her chomping is so loud. I don't know what it is. It's just so loud, so I'm sorry. But also, while I was doing my, well, actually I was reading this part. I was going to say while I was doing my listening today, because I feel like we haven't chatted in a while because I have been listening to the audiobook for a good amount today, which also definitely recommend the audio. It was pretty good. I was a little bit nervous because I was like, if the audio was bad, I'm just not going to listen to it, but I did end up liking the audiobook, so that's good. But anyway, we found out the motivation behind one of the characters' actions, and this character was like, a lot of their actions were just not making a lot of sense. And I mean, I had a hypothesis on what it was going on, but his reasoning behind his motivations was so weird. Like it just did not make any sense. I mean, it kind of made sense. It was just actually so dumb, and it just really made me mad. And then he goes on to do something that made my hypothesis in the beginning of the book correct. And it's like, why throw the stupid dumb reason out there when I was right in the first place? Also, I had a gut feeling that a shoe was about to drop in this book, and then it did. It like literally, I had the gut feeling and immediately shoe dropped. I would drop the book, but it's a library book, so I feel like I need to take care of it. Anyway, I'm very proud that I was right. I am also just loving the whole figure skating moment in this book. I think I talked about that already though, so I don't want to keep talking about the same thing over and over again. We'll talk about my feelings, my ratings tomorrow, which is actually good because I want to sit and think on my rating about this book, because as of right now, I have no idea what my star rating would be, and I only have 2 chapters left, so we're like at the part where like we're wrapping everything up. So I'm gonna finish this and we will chat in the morning. I thought I would know my rating for this book by the time I woke up, but I was wrong. I don't. I am still on the fence because I can't decide if I want to rate this a 3.5 star or a 4. I did really enjoy it. And like I said, the found family is just so good in this book, and I did enjoy them together. I liked them as characters. I liked all of that, but those little scenes were a little bit much sometimes. I was like, okay, do you guys actually like each other, or do you just like doing that? You know what I mean? At some points it was hard to tell. So that's why I'm on the fence about this book, but I did start my next book, which is actually Yellowface. I think that this was the most read fiction last year, and I think part of that reason was because so many people were talking about this book. Like it just got a lot of awards last year. I think it was also a Goodreads best book of the year. And I was also familiar with the premise of this book before going into it, so I know that our main character, her like best best friend-ish is a very famous author, and then one day her friend dies, and so basically she steals her friend's manuscript and publishes it as her own. But I will say I only got one chapter into this book and I low-key already wanted to DNF it because oh my goodness, our main character in this book, so annoying. She spent the entire first chapter being unbelievably jealous and rude to her best friend, like in her inner monologue. That is not her friend, girl. That's not your friend. Like, if you're treating her and like thinking about her like that, like she's not your friend. I hate to break it to you, but she's not. So now that her friend is, you know, I feel like things are going to be a lot better now because hopefully she won't be, you know, jealous about her dead friend because her friend literally died, which the way her friend dies, I'm not going to tell you, it's actually crazy. That was okay. Crazy. New fear unlocked. Anyway, I've heard a lot of people saying that this kind of gives like an inside look into the publishing industry. I haven't gotten that so far, but like I said, I'm only a chapter into it. I do have to work in about 30 minutes, so I'm gonna read a little bit more and then switch to the audiobook yet again today. But I think it'll actually help me with this one because as of right now, I'm really not liking the main character, and liking the characters is very important for me. So I'm kind of hoping the audiobook will actually help me with that, to like her. But also, like, I don't know if we're supposed to like her at this point because she literally stole her dead friend's manuscript. Like, I don't know how I'm supposed to like her after that. I'm back with another lunch update. I'm actually already 31% of the way through this book. I made it to chapter 7 and I'm very much on the fence about it right now. Like, so much at the beginning of the book was her dishing on someone that was supposed to be a friend before she even stole the manuscript. But like, that doesn't make it better. Like, they were still friends. Like, if you don't like that person, no one is making you be friends with them. That really bothers me. Like, any of my friends were shitting on me, like even just in their internal dialogue, I'm like, you don't have to be friends with me. Like, no one is forcing you to be friends with me. Go make friends somewhere else, you know? Like, it just makes me so aggravated at our main character. I'm like actually mad at her. Like, she is a horrible person and she literally just like stole her friend's book and tried to make it her own and is like justifying her actions by saying like, well, I did this and this and this and this and blah 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 blah. No, you're just justifying your actions because you know deep down what you did is wrong. And as I go on into the book, I like her slightly more and more just because like as I get used to her and like get to know her, but that doesn't mean I like her. No, that does not mean I like her. I just no longer despise her as strongly as I did in the beginning. Still do. Still despise her, but not as strongly. And you can probably tell I still do not like her. And I think I said this earlier in the video that I am just such a characters person that when I don't like the characters or I don't feel connected to the characters, it's just really hard for me to like the book. And that's kind of how I'm feeling with this book right now. I hate the characters so much that it's hard for me to really like the book. Good girl. Good girl. But right now I feel like I'm literally just waiting for the main character to get the repercussions of her actions because she's low-key like floating on a high, you know what I mean? Like, her life is still going good and I'm like, no. We better be turning this around somewhere because no, this is not happening. I don't like you enough to have a good, perfect little life, okay? Something's gonna happen here. That's where I'm at right now. I don't hate it, but it's definitely not my favorite book by any means. And I was worried that this book would do that to me because I knew like the premise of the book and I know myself as a reader, but I'm gonna keep going and then hopefully something will happen, something will change. So I've realized something. I do not feel like reading this book. And that is scary because normally when I'm feeling this way, that normally means I should DNF the book because I normally feel like reading. Like, there is very little time in my life where I do not feel like reading. Normally that's just when I know I need to DNF a book, is when I don't feel like reading it. That's how I'm feeling with this book, but then I'm also conflicted because I don't want to not finish it. Like, I want to keep reading it just for the sake of reading it, not because I want to read it. Okay, so yeah, that's not good. And it's mostly because of everything that I said in my last update. Like, I just kind of really don't like the main character and I kind of haven't been caring about like what's going on. And it's nothing against the book by any means. I just find it very difficult to get into the book and get into the story. And then I also don't want to finish the book if me not getting into the book means I'm not gonna like the book. Like, I want to set the book up for success, and I feel like if I push myself to read the book, I'm not going to be setting it up for success. I'm going to be setting it up for failure, actually. I don't know, because I feel bad about DNFing it and I don't want to DNF it. I'm currently at the 42% mark, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to read to at least to the 50% mark, and then I'm going to decide if I want to DNF it. The thing is, I don't hate the audiobook, so I could just listen to the audiobook, but like I said, I don't want to force myself to read it. I feel like that's just setting the book up for failure, so I'm going to decide at the 50% mark, because as of right now, I don't feel like reading it. I just hate DNFing books. I really do. Good morning, besties. I am about to go to work. What's new? But I wanted to give my update before I log on to work, because I did not DNF this book, because last time I talked to you guys, I was thinking about DNFing this book, but I am not going to DNF it. I swear, as soon as I hit the 50% mark, I started enjoying this book a bit more, but I will say I still don't want to pick up the actual physical copy. Like last night when I was laying in bed, instead of picking up the physical copy, I literally just sat there with my headphones in, and I don't normally do that. Like I normally will just like physically read a book until I'm ready to go to bed. No, last night I was just listening to it, which I actually do feel like is a bad sign still, that I don't want to physically pick up the book, but I'll sit and listen to it. I don't know why, but I just feel like normally that's a bad sign for me. But with all that being said, I do feel like I don't hate the main character as much as I used to, which I feel like is really helping me with this book. And then also our plot has changed a little bit, and like more is happening, which I needed more to happen. I feel like the beginning was just like very slow and not enough was happening. I feel like it's a lot more of a character focused book is basically what I'm saying. So I was not expecting the plot to just like, you know, but at the same time, like I said, it's hard for me to enjoy a character focused book when I do not like the characters. So now that I'm not fully hating on our main character, I can appreciate this book a little bit more. With all of that being said, I don't think I even told you what percent I'm at right now. I'm actually almost done with the book, because like I said, I literally was just sitting there in my bed last night listening to this book. I think I scrolled a little bit on Pinterest, but other than that, I was literally just like laying there listening. But I'm actually 90% of the way through this book right now. I'm on chapter 22, so I'm definitely gonna finish this book. I didn't realize how far I was until just now. I have officially finished Yellowface, aka the most read fiction book of 2024 according to Goodreads. After I finished this book, I literally had to brain dump some of my thoughts, but I think I'm gonna settle on a 3-star for this book. It kind of felt like a roller coaster for me in the sense that I would really like the book, and then I would really not like the book, and then I would really like the book, and then I'd really not like the book. I also predicted part of the ending, which was so frustrating, and like I had kind of called something like that happening pretty early on in the book. Like as soon as the little foreshadowing moment happened, I was like, yeah, I see where we're going with this. But also the other part of the ending, like the very end of the book, the way that ended was so frustrating to me. It just kind of left me like, huh? But overall, I didn't love the book and I didn't love the ending, but I do feel like the conversations that are brought up in this book are so important, and I feel like that's mostly where the 3-star comes from for me. It is a book that makes you think and spreads awareness, and I think that is so important. And listen, I know we aren't supposed to like the main character, and I didn't, but it was so hard for me to love this book when I hated the main character so much, because we are in the main character's point of view the entire time. So being in her point of view and not liking her so much made me unable to put those feelings aside and like appreciate the book. But I know that about myself, and I know that I need to love the characters to love the book. And so when a character is like very truly unlikable, truly not a good person, that makes it hard for me to like the book, and that's what happened in this book. And so I kind of honestly feel like I should have known that I wouldn't be obsessed with this book, because I knew I was not gonna like the main character based on the synopsis of the book. But I still do recommend this book, especially if you're someone not like that you can kind of separate the characters from the story. If you're someone like that, hey, I 100% recommend this book. But then we also read 2 other books in this video. It's actually funny because we started the video off with a 4-star read, and then I ended up settling on a 3.5-star for this book, and then I'm gonna give this book a 3-star. So it kind of is funny because it goes 4, 3.5, and then a 3. I feel like I already kind of talked about both of my feelings on these books. Loved this one. I kind of realized that I think I like this book so much because it felt realistic, but it was also creepy and like really put me on the edge. And then this book, I loved the relationship, but the spice in here was way too much for me. I particularly loved his friends, and I think the rest of the series follows his friends. I could be wrong about that, but if it does, I'm definitely gonna read the rest of the series. But like I said, just a little bit too much of that going on in this book, and I knew that that would hold me back in this book. But I still wanted to give it a shot, and I'm definitely glad that I did give it a shot because I did like it. But that is it for this video. Let me know if you read any of these books or any of the other most read books of 2024 according to Goodreads. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!